Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. I was asked today what kind of blokes are generally part of our community within our Strong Men of Value Academy. So I thought about this and I went through our members and I thought about who I am as an individual, and I came up with two kinds of people. And I'm going to share one with you today and one with you next Monday's episode, so I don't overwhelm you. I'm not even going to overwhelm you. But this is based off of who I am as an individual and where I'm going. And our community and the blokes we have in there are fucking awesome. I was a bloke who grew up loving sports, adventure, travel, and socializing. I was a man's man and always up for a party. 10 years after completing school, I had experienced a stream of toxic relationships and quietly suffered from the mistakes that I'd made and the people that I'd hurt along the way. You know, I punished myself with guilt, shame, and embarrassment. There came a day when I realized I was unhappy and sick of doing the work I wasn't fucking passionate about. And I was sick of always stuffing up, carrying that guilt for cheating, lying, wasting time and money on partying and other useless shit. And I decided I wanted to change my life, to pursue my passions and to let go of the guilt from the past. And I've worked hard on my confidence and created more flexibility to do the things I enjoy with people that I enjoy. And that has completely changed my outlook on life. And that right there represents a large number of blokes who have come into our academy. They can relate to that story of having an endless stream of toxic relationships and behaviors. They know they want to do better. They know they can be better. And that's where they're at of their life. That is how incredible the academy is. It is helping men take their life to that next level. It is giving them their confidence back. It is helping them build mental resilience, physical resilience. It is giving them a community of like-minded men who are wanting to be better. And similar, we love fucking sport. We love pushing ourselves and we love a bit of banter. That's why it is so fun. Now, let's dive into today's episode. We're going to be talking about letting go of guilt. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it. So welcome to the Man That Can Project. Today we are talking guilt, all things guilt, something that I know a lot of men are carrying through their life and something that has really been crippling and causing so many men to not reach their potential. So what I want to go into today is how I personally let go of guilt and the process that we can go through it. Now, I do want to be clear. We're talking about emotional guilt and the emotional guilt that we put on ourselves. I'm not talking about the guilt that you may perceive from other people that people put onto you. Let's just work with yourself first, because as with everything, taking ownership for your own house, cleaning your own house is very important before you go on to cleaning other people's houses, right? So for me, I personally believe guilt can be a good thing, right? For a lot of people, it's like we never want to experience, but as with anything, you know, we have a range of emotions to experience a range of emotions. It's all about our perspective and what we do with that. That is most important, I guess, really how we respond to the emotions that we're experiencing, right? We aren't our emotions. We experience our emotions. That is a very fucking important thing to think about. And as I was talking to I put a poll out on Instagram, good old Instagram, and thanks for those of you who engage in those polls. It's pretty cool to see where everyone who, I guess, follows the Man That Can project is at. Many of the men listening to the Man That Can project and that engage on the social media put their hand up to say that they were experiencing guilt, they were experiencing shame, they were experiencing embarrassment. And for many of them, they'd been carrying it for a long period of their time. Now, I didn't get to chat to everyone. I spoke to 3, so not a heap, but that's what I decided to do. And the upsetting part about this is these blokes, from my experience and interactions with them, seem like incredible men. They had made a mistake in their past, as we all fucking have. I guarantee anyone listening to this, you can't honestly hold your head high and say you've never made a mistake. And often what happens when we make a mistake, we govern ourselves, right? And that, I guess, emotion of governance is guilt. Just like through the judicial process, if someone is guilty, they then get put through that process, whether it's a fine, whether it's spending time in prison, whether it's community service. But generally what happens when the challenge or the sentence handed down, sorry, I was having a brain fart there. The sentence handed down, there is generally a timeline attached to that, whether it's 2 years, 6 months, a life sentence, whatever that is. So people have certainty around that and whether they have a parole period or not. But the unfortunate thing that we need to understand about ourselves with our own the emotional guilt that we put on ourselves is we often don't give ourselves a sentence. It just hangs around for as long as we continue to think about it, or we might have things that trigger something that remind us of things that have happened in the past. Now, I know for a long period of my life there were things that I experienced guilt over because, well, actually, let's wind this back. What really is emotional guilt? Now, for me personally, emotional guilt was the fact that I had breached my values. Now, many people don't even understand what they value or what their core values are. So for a long period of time, I kept experiencing guilt time and time and time again, and I really never understood why. And I didn't, understand it was guilt. I was just like, fuck, I don't feel very good. Right? Because I had this intrinsic set of standards, these intrinsic values that shaped who I was and who I was meant to be as a man. And because I wasn't aware of what they were, when I would mess up and I would experience guilt, so for example, I felt a lot of guilt around how I, treated people. I felt guilt and experienced guilt as a result of cheating within relationships. And what I later found out was when I became clear on who I was as a man and who I wanted to be, and I established those values, I wanted to be a man of integrity. So you can see how I felt guilt and I experienced guilt as a result of cheating, right? Because that's not in alignment with who I am, and that's not within the values of integrity for me. So of course I'm going to punish myself for not showing up how I wanted to show up, even though I wasn't aware of it. Now the cool thing is that all of us as individuals can become aware of what we really value. It's quite a simple process, right? And once we become aware of that, we can start setting these or establishing these boundaries within that. But here's the thing. Just give me a nod. If you're wherever you're watching this, give me a nod if you're holding on to guilt right now, if you're punishing yourself with guilt. Now, answer this question for yourself. Is holding yourself to guilt, is punishing yourself with guilt, allowing you to be the best version of yourself? Or are you holding yourself back and giving people the fucking dregs of yourself? That is what I want you to think about. Because I know for a fact, now I beat myself up for a long period of time. I experienced guilt for a long period of time. Yeah, I wasn't fun to be around, right? I was reserved as a man. I was anxious and I was moody. And had I continued on that path, I probably would have ended up isolated. I would have probably experienced much worse mental health issues around depression and anxiety than I personally experienced. Okay, and that's just the beginning I don't think I would feel fulfillment in my life. I don't think I would have found my purpose and had a real zest and passion for life because of that. So what I did was I made a decision that I wanted to change. I made a decision that I wanted to feel better. I made a decision, that I was going to be the best version of myself, and the best version of myself didn't punish myself with guilt from mistakes of the past. The best version of myself learned from those mistakes, utilize those mistakes to empower other people, to make other people aware so maybe they don't make the same mistakes that I did. Because if I continued to punish myself for that, I would have never been able to move forward. I'm sure majority of the people who I felt, or the experiences that I felt guilt around, have moved on. Right, so why do I not deserve to move on? I've given myself a sentence. It was the moment that I decided my sentence was up, and I feel like anyone who's listening to this, it's fucking release day. Allow yourself to get back on track and be the best version of yourself. Take ownership, right? Guilt is an emotion. You're choosing to experience emotion because you continue to focus on the shit with a poor perspective. You're viewing yourself as unworthy and potentially as someone who is devalued through your eyes. What you need to do, and this is one of the best things I ever learned, and I go through with one-on-one clients, is a process called timeline therapy, right? And you utilize that to help people shift perspective on past experiences, to let go of negative emotions. And guilt falls under what I would consider a negative emotion, right? You can shift your perspective on the event. What do you need to learn? What do you need to see the event as in order to let go of the guilt and allow yourself to show up as the best version of yourself? Right, here's a crazy fucking story. And I don't know whether I've spoken about this on the podcast, but I've definitely shared it with people at workshops and one-on-one clients. When I was doing my neuro-linguistic programming course, and I went through the timeline therapy master practitioner, I went through timeline therapy. And when I got to guilt, it was a wild experience. I had held on to guilt for, was I 27 when I did that? So 27 years of my life without even really being aware of it, but wearing the physiological effects or responses within my body of guilt. Think about what I said before, how guilt made me feel. Think about how guilt makes you feel. By feeling that, don't be that naive to think that your body isn't suffering as a result of that. I think about how much your body, and there's so much around it, your body suffers as a result of stress, of anxiety, of depression. The same goes for guilt. It's going to have a negative impact within your body. So what I became aware of through this experience was that I'd been holding on to guilt for being born. And this may sound ridiculous to some people. It sounds ridiculous saying it out loud. But I had a really emotional response to this. I had a fucking breakdown around it, around being born. Because I perceived myself, the fact that I had been born, that I had taken my mum's life off path. Now, this could have been this is completely untrue. But this is what I perceived it as, and I gave meaning to from a young age, because mum obviously wasn't then in the workforce, and I saw the ripple effect that had on her life, and I was thinking, well, if I wasn't born, then that would have never happened. And there are people who are sitting out there who won't understand that. And that's completely fine. It's just like there are people out there, if you've ever experienced mental health challenges around depression and anxiety and all that sort of stuff, and people just go, just suck it up and move on. They don't understand that, right? And who gives a fuck? It's not our job to make them understand it. As long as we understand it, we're aware of it, we take ownership, we can move through it. And that's what I did, right? I went through that process to understand that I'm going to take ownership of this emotion. I'm going to view it through a different perspective. And what meaning do I want to give it? What meaning do I need to give it in order for me to move forward and be a better version of myself? And that is what I did. And now that event I can still think about, but it's empowering. And I've gone through and I've done that with multiple events in my life, when I was cheating, when I was lying, when I was manipulating. And rather than just going, fuck, you're a pig, Lockie, I now go, okay, yeah, knowing what I know now, I won't act that way, because I have learned from that experience. I am showing up in a different way, but back then I didn't know. And I wouldn't know had I not gone through that. So rather than beating myself up from it, the positive impact it can have on other men's lives by me sharing those experiences, the guilt is going to then drive me to be better, because I don't want other men to go through that. I don't want other men to beat themselves up, much like many of you who are listening and those gentlemen who voted on the poll and shared their experiences with me. I don't want you to go through what I went through, and I haven't even gone through it half as bad as some blokes who are maybe older than me and who've carried guilt, shame, and embarrassment around for a long period of their life. So you need to think about this. You need to make the decision that you're going to let yourself off. You're going to forgive yourself. It can be confronting because you have to accept actions that you've taken in the past. But you can also shift your perspective on that to be empowering, right? To take responsibility for it. So that's how you can let go, right? So as I mentioned, I guess I want to give you guys a recap now. So how you can let go. One, you can become aware of why you're feeling guilty around a thing. What value did it violate, or what rule did you break in your life? Right? Understand that you must take responsibility. Go, look, hands up, I did do that. Once again, knowing what I know now, I'm beating myself up for it. But knowing that I also didn't know this in the past, I shouldn't hold myself responsible. Like, hold yourself responsible, but don't hold yourself back because of it. Now, think about also, what does it do for anyone if you don't let yourself off? Fucking nothing. And it's going to ruin your life. Literally, you think about it. If you had to show up every day feeling guilty, it's not fun. It is not fucking fun. You want to be someone that you want to be around, and I guess that most empowering version of yourself. It's an emotion. You need to change your perception, change how you perceive the event, and utilize it to encourage and empower you to be better, right? It's not as easy, disclaimer, it's not as easy as all the shit that I've just said, right? That's a process, but for everyone it is different and unique. But if you do truly step up and take responsibility, and you are committed to the process of forgiving yourself, you will forgive yourself. I guarantee you that. But you've got to play all out. You've got to fucking play all out. So gents and ladies, that is how I let go of guilt, and that is how you can let go of emotional guilt that you burden yourself with. Okay? Encourage yourself to be better. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you got value from this episode, please share it with anyone that you know would get value from it or needs to hear it. And remember, signing out, do something today that is going to make you show up better tomorrow. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.